Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is going to be a post-fight recap of UFC Vegas 23 and or UFC ABC 2, whatever you want to call it. The main event was Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. It was originally supposed to be Marvin Vettori versus Dern, which was a much bigger fight, but Dern broke his collarbone and fell out of the fight, so Kevin Holland stepped in on short notice to fight Marvin Vettori. Obviously, Kevin Holland just fought, 3 weeks ago against Derek Brunson and lost a decisive decision. He was taken down at will, held down, and ground and pound. Had some bright spots on the feet in the Brunson fight, but overall lost the fight. So I did a prediction video earlier this week, and it pretty much, the main event played out pretty much exactly how I thought the fight would play out. I thought Kevin Holland had a little bit of the edge on the feet, which actually wasn't really true. Kevin Holland had a huge advantage on the feet. He was landing on Vettori at will. But overall, Vettori engaged the grappling. He clinched up with Holland. He took Holland down. He held him down, and he grinded him out. There were some bright spots for Holland. Holland had a couple reversals early on. I think it was one reversal on the ground early on. I think in the second round was when he really hurt Vettori. There was multiple times on the feet Kevin Holland hurt Vettori, snapped his head back. But again, we seen 3 weeks ago, and there wasn't much improvement to be made in 3 weeks. Kevin Holland's takedown defense is just not there. And Vettori exploited that. He took him down basically at will, pushed him up against the fence. He got full mount a couple times and just dominated him. I think it was 50-45 unanimous decision. But what really, for this fight, what really told me was I don't know if Kevin Holland is ever going to be a title contender in the UFC. That's a massive hole in his game, that wrestling. And it's not just the, being taken down. It's just the ease of which he's taken down. And don't get me wrong, I have massive respect for Kevin Holland, especially after that Derek Brunson fight, which he looked terrible. He showed no resistance to Derek Brunson. In this fight, this was a different Kevin Holland. And, he was trying his damnedest. He tried to get up in this fight. He never tried to get up once in the Brunson fight. He was fighting for his life to get up off his back. And there was a couple times where he got up, but Vettori had the body lock and just took him down with ease again and again. And so, but man, this is a massive liability for Kevin Holland. As far as Marvin Vettori goes, this is his 5th win in a row. He got 11 takedowns in this fight, which is apparently a UFC record at middleweight. Was just takedown after takedown after takedown, and was nothing. Kevin Holland had nothing to offer for that. If Kevin Holland was able to stuff a couple takedowns, there's a chance he would have won this fight because the striking differential between the two was much larger than I anticipated, and Kevin Holland was just lighting him up on the feet with some 1-2s. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to stuff that takedown. So Marvin Vettori wins by decision. The next question is on the commentary team. They suggested maybe Vettori is in line for a title shot after this fight. I don't think so. I think the winner of Kelvin Gastelum versus Robert Whittaker next Saturday is potentially next in line. Unless that's an absolute stinker, then maybe Marvin Vettori. If that was an absolute stinker, maybe Marvin Vettori could sneak in there and get that title shot. But I doubt it. I think most likely if Robert Whittaker wins, we'll see Adesanya versus Whittaker too. But maybe if it's a terrible fight or maybe if Kelvin Gastelum wins, I'm not sure he'll get a title shot. And the middleweight division is wide open right now. There's no clear-cut number one contender after Whittaker beat Jarrett Cannonier. So we'll see how that goes. But let's move on to the co-main event. Arnold Allen beat Sodiq Yusuff. Sodiq Yusuff is a guy I've been high on at featherweight for a long time. And this performance was super underwhelming. He showed a lot of holes in his game. I know he's still young, but the takedown defense wasn't there. He wasn't able to get his back off the cage. He was stuck against the cage, and there was nothing he could do about it. And, I know Arnold Allen's a good fighter. I think he's ranked number 10 right now. But he doesn't have any real notable names on his resume either. So I think Sodiq Yusuff really, has to go back to the drawing board and really start working on some of his skills. And now, after seeing this fight, and you can't ever guess anything off one fight, but I'm not sure we'll ever see him in title contention or crack into that top 10. Maybe he will. He showed some promise before, but that was fighting no-name guys basically. Once he fought Arnold Allen, who's just barely a top 10 guy, he got shut down and he lost by decision as well. As far as Arnold Allen goes, I'm not sure where he stands in the featherweight division. You look at everybody above him, I'm not sure he beats anybody that's above him right now. And the featherweight division is just filled with killers. You got Volkanovski as the champion. You got Max Holloway, Sodiq, Yair, Jeremy Stevens, so many guys. I can't even think of all of them off the top of my head. Brian Ortega, who's fighting for the belt next. So I don't know where Arnold Allen goes from there. Also, in the middleweight division, we had Sam Alvey versus Julian Marquez. Absolute phenomenal finish by Marquez. Great back and forth fight in the first round. Both guys got hurt in the first round. Was a great fight. Sam Alvey was just putting his back against the cage constantly, and had no way. He had no movement, so he was just getting lit up. Second round came around. Marquez landed hard on him, hurt him badly. Alvey shot him on a takedown. Marquez must have landed 15 unanswered strikes to the side of the head. I thought it could have been stopped at that point. He was just in survival mode. I think he was basically out. The referee could have stopped it at any point. I actually think it was a late stoppage on the referee's part. But anyway, Marquez grabs the rear naked choke. He was off to the side, didn't have the hooks in or anything, and chokes him unconscious. He didn't even attempt to fight it. He didn't even attempt to tap. I think he was completely out after those strikes. Could have been stopped way earlier, but not the worst stoppage I've ever seen. But absolute great performance by Marquez. I can't wait to see where he goes from here. Sam Alvey, he doesn't get a lot of credit, but he's a decent fighter. He's a salvageable guy in the middleweight division. And Marquez looked promising against him, so I can't wait to see who he fights next. Also on the main card, you had Nina Nunes versus Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern looked phenomenal. Took her down, submitted her with ease in the first round. It was an armbar. Mackenzie Dern, I haven't been sold on her completely, but after this fight, I'm all on board. Her striking obviously needs some work, but her submission game and her top control, she's strong, and man, she has some nasty jiu-jitsu. So I can't wait. Strawweight women's division is one of my favorite divisions in the UFC. So I cannot wait to see where Mackenzie Dern goes from here. I mean, she still has a lot of work to do. I think she's 1 or 2 fights away from potentially fighting for a title. I don't know how she'll fare against somebody like Weili Zhang or Rose Namajunas just yet. But if she can grow a little bit more, learn a little bit more, I think, she can be in some very interesting fights in the future. And I can't wait to see them. The last fight on the main card was Mike Perry versus Daniel Rodriguez. And this was, for me, was the saddest fight on the card. Mike Perry, who's known for his aggressiveness, his striking, was just absolutely shut down by Daniel Rodriguez. He was pieced up with a 1-2. Mike Perry's only bright spots in the entire fight were 2 takedowns, but they were either towards the end of the round or I think Rodriguez got up off one of them. But Rodriguez was just lighting him up on the feet. By the end of the fight, Mike Perry's nose was busted up. His whole face was busted up. He was bloodied and battered. And he just had nothing to offer. And Mike Perry's main strength is his striking. And if he can't strike with, Daniel Rodriguez, I don't know how much longer he's going to last in the UFC. And we'll talk about that in a second. Mike Perry is now 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He only has 1 win in 5 fights. He got brutalized in this fight. He wasn't stopped. It was a decision win by Daniel Rodriguez. But it's not a good look. And, especially with all the outside the cage antics by Mike Perry, I think it might be time the UFC may let him go and just release him after that fight, especially considering he's not winning fights. There's no path forward for Mike Perry from here. And tonight he looked older. He looked slower. And his striking game, which is his main strength, just didn't look good at all against a guy who's not even ranked. And especially when you got that killer welterweight division, I just don't see what Mike Perry can do. UFC has been willing to keep him around, I guess, because he's constantly in fun fights. Every single fight he gets in, is an exciting fight. But every time he's had to step up in competition, he's failed. Cowboy Cerrone loses. Who else has he fought? I'm trying to think. Santiago Ponzinibbio loses. And it just seems every single time that he steps up in competition at welterweight, he loses. Now, Daniel Rodriguez, I wouldn't even say is a step up in competition. I would say they were about on the same, trajectory. Daniel Rodriguez is not a bum by any means, but he still has a lot to work to do in the welterweight division. He looked good tonight. I can't wait. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. I think there'll probably be a big fight ahead for him in the welterweight division. But right now, a win over Mike Perry doesn't say much. Mike Perry's won one fight in the last five, in his last five. So anyway, let me know what fight you liked the most tonight. The whole entire main card was phenomenal from start to finish. All the fights were interesting. All of them had very interesting, outcomes, and they were relevant to their respective divisions. So I can't wait to see where a lot of these people go from here. If you can, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. I'll be putting out a lot more videos in the future. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.